But it's also, I live in Greenwich Village. I live in the neighborhood where my job was invented on purpose, just because I like walking those streets where all those heroes of mine was. Where did the other capo go? I got one here somewhere. Oh, there it is. But my real hero is my neighborhood. And, one of the things I discovered is in New York, there's a lot of culture shock involved, but the whole existence of the New York Deli Grocery kind of blew my mind because, I'd never seen anything like that before. I mean, I grew up in Texas. We had 7-Eleven, but it is a convenience store. But it's open 24 hours a day, and it has, convenience store stuff, pop and beer and bad food. But it also has real groceries like produce. And if you're cooking in the middle of the night, you can go down and get yourself a tomato or an onion. And I find that, and fresh flowers 24 hours a day. I find that such a convenience. I need them when I'm single. I need them when I'm married. And I can get fresh flowers, a dozen roses in the middle of the night. Now that type of business was invented by Italians, and probably in Greenwich Village and Little Italy, which are both Italian neighborhoods originally. And but by the time I started going to New York, that kind of those cultures kind of change, and most of the groceries, the deli groceries, and some people call them bodegas. It depends on what part of town you're in. Have been taken over by folks that had immigrated from Korea. Including the one on my block. You have one in your block, and it's the center of your neighborhood, and you move 2 blocks, and it's a different deli in a different neighborhood. Mine was run the first few weeks. For years, 5 years, I was in New York. I lived on Jones Street. That's the street that Bob Dylan and Susie Rotala are walking down on the cover of the Free Will and Bob Dylan. I spent all my time turning Germans around so they didn't fuck up their reenactment of the cover. And it's there's Mr. Kim, who had the deli at the end of the street, was kind of a remarkable cat to me. I found him really impressive because one thing, he speaks Korean, which sounds like a tough fucking language to me, and he speaks English better than I do, and his kids speak English better than both of us, and and I watched them kind of grow up. But the really impressive thing about Mr. Kim is in his 50s, and I kind of witnessed a lot of this. He found it necessary to learn a third language because of changes in New York City and changes in his business, because most of his employees are people that immigrated from Mexico and Central America now. So Mr. Kim learned to speak Spanish, and he speaks it beautifully and fluently, and he can communicate with his employees. And they've learned to speak English from him. I don't know whether they've learned to speak Korean or not, but maybe, I think it's entirely possible. And that embarrasses the fuck out of me, because I grew up in occupied Mexico, man. I'm from San Antonio, Texas. And my Spanish is I can order from a menu, and I can shop, and I know when to run. And that's pretty much it. So, but, another cool thing that happens in New York that I didn't know about is if you have a business and you don't have anybody to pass it along to, you might sell that business like kind of on installments to one of your employees. They've learned the business working beside you, and they make payments to you, and that becomes your pension. Because, if you're self-employed, you're not going to get a lot of money from the government when you retire. So, and see, Mr. Kim, he's probably going to have to do that because one kid went to MIT, one went to Harvard. They're not coming back to run the fucking grocery. So, and see, that's America. That's who we are. So.